Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got Matt Geiger, and today we're going to be talking about the California fraud. Trump pushes out Davos. We're going to talk about Mandani in New York, what he's doing with taxes. We're going to go into that and what is he really funding. And then we're going to talk about gold and where it's sitting and the future of gold and how to protect your retirement as well using gold and hedging against inflation. Matt, thank you so much for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to? I love your checkered yellow top. It symbolizes the gold standard, the golden age. It's how you been.
I'm just throwing out communications left and right. No, good to see you, Nick. Always good to be with you. Thank you. Everything's been great, just staying busy. Precious metals, obviously, the place to be, and just trying to service the business. And thanks to your viewers, unbelievable people, the world's best people, and I really appreciate them.
Of course. And just before we begin, I just want to say that the links below in the description for you to contact Matt and definitely move all of that fake Federal Reserve money that you've got, your savings, into gold. It's a no-brainer. Gold is God's money, and that's what's going to make you wealthy, by just holding gold instead of cash, because cash is going down, gold is going up. You have to make the move now. Gold's come down to 5,000. It was 52, 5,300. And I think we're looking, the next jump, I reckon, is just going to keep going up. So it's a very smart move to make. But let's move on. California fraud. What's going on there? I'm from the UK. California's 8 hours behind me. What's going on in California?
Well, you had the situation in Minnesota with Nick Shirley, right? Nick Shirley is this journalist. He's this kid doing phenomenal job. I subscribe to his channel. I would recommend everybody, it's like $3 a month. It's like, support these guys, go and pay the money, support these guys are doing the work. But if you look at him in, I think it was at the White House, I believe, but he was sitting there with Trump and, Kara Castronova from Gateway Pundit. In other words, real reporters. And Trump handed him that story, for Minnesota. He uncovered the fraud. Well, now Nick decided, after getting huge exposure on that, he's in California. And what they're finding in California is it's the same story as Minnesota, only California is a much bigger state. They're going to find, I think, not billions, but trillions in fraud. And he hasn't released any content yet, which is the funny part. He's kind of holding back, which is cool. But they're going to expose a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we know about the light rail, the train that they're going to build. They spent $20 billion. Nothing came about it. Same thing with homelessness, right? They put all this, tens of billions of dollars into homelessness. It's only gotten worse. Where'd the money go? So I think that this exposure is going to reveal a lot more behind the scenes. It'll be very good for precious metals, when people start seeing the fraud and, right. This is going to start tying the whole narrative together. This is going to start tying the whole story together.
Yeah, of course. And that's what they do. They just say, we're going to build this, we're going to do this, we're going to build new rails. They increase your taxes, but they never get anything done. And when you go to these public services, it just looks like 100 years old, especially in the UK. In the UK, anyway, you go to the doctors, and there's like 1970s carpet and 1970s or 1980s wallpaper, and it looks terrible. What are they doing with taxpayers' money? Yet we're struggling. We're paying all these taxes, and it's not even just taxes. Everything, parking fines, it goes to the treasury. Okay, 80% of fuel, gasoline, it goes to the treasury. Okay, all of these fines and hidden fees that you don't see, it goes to the treasury. That alone should pay off what they need to do to get this world up and running, instead of us paying taxes. There's so many ways to cover these things. But again, we know, Matt, that the reason why we pay taxes is not because they need the money. The reason why we pay taxes is to contain us in a box, so we are suffering, so that we have problems, we have stress, we emit loose energy, and we have no time to actually think of what's happening in the world. and we're too contained in what we're doing. That's what they're doing, to keep our heads down so that we're distracted. That's the whole point. That's why I think we're paying all these taxes. That's why I think life's got difficult
100%.
for everyone. It's a distraction, so that we don't. So they can erode us slowly into slavery. It's not savory,
And they're doing
slavery.
and they're doing a great job of it. They're doing a phenomenal job of it. And people have to start to realize it's like, sure, I would be all for, better roads and better infrastructure, this, that, the other. We're sitting on, here in the United States, Nick, we still are sitting on infrastructure in most cases that was built in the 1920s, 1930s.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It's like it kind of tips me off to kind of what Trump's up to, is that I think we're going to be rebuilding this country, our infrastructure, everything. Because, our politicians talked about it for decades, oh, let's rebuild the infrastructure. And they never do it. Why? Because their end goal was to kill everybody, right?
yeah,
Why are they going to build new infrastructure, right? They may as well pocket the money, kill everybody, and walk away with the bag. But of course, we got Donald Trump, thank God. And, I think what people need to start to realize is that these banks are going to start getting implicated in this,
mm,
right? These banks, I have friends. I have a friend that worked at one of the major banks in a very high position. I won't say what bank or who it is, because you could obviously get in trouble. But these guys, I mean, this bank was, banks generally make about 20% profit per year. This particular bank was making 80% profits. Why? Because they were cutting corners. They weren't doing accounting. They were just literally just if this bank got audited, and I'm sure they are, they'd be screwed. They'd be out of business just based on the fines that they would pay. So I foresee a huge banking crisis on the horizon here, probably very soon. I mean, we're in it. Everybody said, "Oh, nothing." Remember all the days, Nick? You remember? Everybody said, "Oh, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening." Well, shit's happening now.
yeah.
Things are happening.
I wouldn't be surprised if all of these, when you mentioned about California and siphoning money, increasing taxes, and making up all these projects that don't really happen, and then you talk about the banks. It won't surprise me at all if all of these branches of power are part of the Epstein. There has
Oh,
to be a
100%.
big web of Epstein involved.
I mean,
If
wasn't Jamie Dimon Epstein's personal banker?
this is what I mean. So this is the Epstein. I think the Epstein can potentially be a lot bigger than what we think it is. Okay. And I think that it has the potential to bring down every financial power structure in the world, to the point of even saying, well, the banks have been involved with this fraud. Really, when there's fraud, contracts can be null and void,
100%.
So what does that mean if contracts can be null and void and banks are involved in crimes against humanity, which is treason? It could mean that the banks may have to write our debts off. I'm just
Exactly
saying.
right.
I mean, it just a bit of fraud, public fraud like that, treasonous crimes like that.
Is Epstein Satoshi behind
Again,
Bitcoin?
we don't know. Again, we really don't
I've heard
know.
it.
Who
I don't
knows?
know, but some Japanese guy that no one's ever heard of. It's like you creating this blockchain. I mean, we knew that Bitcoin was a creation of DARPA, right? Defense Advanced Project Resources Agency. We know that. We know that for a fact. Now, can Trump salvage it and make a good thing out of something that they've created? Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting, hey, don't go buy Bitcoin. I mean, go for it. But Epstein clearly is at the forefront of a lot more things than we actually realized. That was one of the big revelations to me, at least.
So I'll put this like this, right? If you're thinking, if some people are watching this thinking, is Bitcoin bad? Because if Epstein did create it, the way I see it is a criminal can create a knife to kill people. But if a good person takes over that knife, it could cut packages to take meat out and feed people. Okay. So for me, I think Bitcoin, from what I've seen and what I've researched with Bitcoin, I think it's a great technology, but it may have been used for the wrong reasons, for corruption, to hide money, etc. But I think that it can be used for sovereignty. And one of the biggest clues that I have for that theory is that Trump and his administration or the Trump family have invested a lot in Bitcoin mining. Okay. I don't see them doing that if that was in the Epstein list,
Percent.
you know? So the technology, so the technology is not good or bad. It's maybe they used it, for corruption, but I think that the technology itself is neutral. I think it can be used for good as well. So it depends what you're
Agreed.
using a knife or a scissors for. Are you using it to kill someone or using it to, cut meat to feed somebody? So
Right.
that's how I see it. You know.
I think
Um,
that's a perfect viewpoint. Yeah, I agree with
yeah.
that.
Now let's move on to Trump now, since we're on the Trump topic. He pushes out Davos. Okay. Tell me what's going on there, Matt.
Well, they're putting Davos and really Europe, where you are, Nick. And I wish you could come here, become an American citizen, and avoid all the Europe's going to have a hard time with this. Truly, I mean, we got to figure out a way to get you here. But essentially, what happened there was Rubio put these people on notice, and we know Rubio's another corrupt guy. He did the phony home sale stuff. Trump just has him as a wingman to he's making good on his wrongs. I think that's what Rubio is. I have no respect for Rubio whatsoever. He's just doing what he's told. But he's effectively telling Davos that, hey, we're moving in a different direction monetarily from a monetary system standpoint. Because these guys over there in Europe where you are, they're going to be pushing this digital prison. Over here, Trump's going to be doing something completely different. It's going to be sovereignty of your money, right? Gold, silver. It's the perfect plug for my company, right? If you need any more convincing, I mean, you're probably not watching these shows. Trump is going to move us into a gold and silver backed currency, whereas Europe is probably going to try to go digital, and it's not compatible. So then it just begs the question: how does Europe even trade with the United States if we're operating in different currency systems, right? And the United States holds all the leverage. So Europe, in a sense, by default, has to follow what the United States does.
I agree.
So it's so effectively what's happening here is pushing Europe in a certain direction that they can't control. They can't do anything about it. The United States holds all the cards. Thank God, right? And Trump understands this. Trump understands leverage, and that's the deal he's making. So people better come to the table from the EU or whoever. I don't think the EU is going to be around much longer, but these people better come to the table and start playing ball because you're dealing with Donald Trump, and you're dealing with the ultimate leverage out there. Because what's the European government's going to start to do? Start explaining why everybody lost their money? They're going to have to play ball. Otherwise, you're going to have a revolution. And that might be a good thing, right? 1776 worldwide. We're seeing it right now. How
Absolutely. Well,
exciting.
yeah, that is very exciting. Well, I know, with the way the way that Trump would do it, I think the way it sounds like he's going to corner countries into being forced into complying with the new world
Cooperation, right.
system. Yeah, that's what I think he's going to do. Um, and I think Trump. I trust Trump with his mastery, chess moves, and business and negotiations. Now, some people think Trump's very egotistical. Yes, but if that means that he's going to get the job done, that's okay. Now, Trump is not supposed to be a spiritual archetype, even though he's aligning his values with that path and the new world. Because if Trump was too spiritual, he would not be interested being a president. So he needs to be the archetype that he is in this matrix to disrupt as a catalyst. And that's what he's doing. Let's move on now to Mandami, New York. I hear that he's increasing property taxes.
What a surprise. Yeah, he's got to pull from these different funds, people's retirement funds, what have you. The money's got to come from somewhere, right? They opened up that I don't know if you saw, but they opened up the first free grocery store in existence, and it looks like something out of North Korea. They had a bunch of Bounty brand paper towels. They had some Dawn soap, and there's a line around the block, and you're sitting there saying to yourself, it's like, well, you have about 500 to 1,000 people around the block, and on the shelf, you've got about 5 things of paper towels and maybe 10 dishwasher soaps, Dawn dishwasher soaps. How's this going to work? What are you going to do? Like what it's literally it's something out of a movie. It's ridiculous. And I think, and our friend Lewis Herms, he's going to be addressing this with California, but the bond market, utility bonds and all these different types of bonds that they've effectively looted us through the bond market. That was their backdoor approach to stealing the money. And these bonds are coming due. No one's going to be able to pay out the bondholders. And what happens then? Then you're not issued new bonds, and literally society stops on a dime. So I think what we're going to see here very soon is I think we're going to see New York City buses shut down, schools, police forces, everything's going to shut down in places like New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago. The whole looting's been done through the bond market, and no one thinks of it in those terms. So it's going to be very interesting to see because these, you got that clown in Chicago, whatever his name is, Brandon something, and then you got the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, and Gavin Newsom. These people are going to have to come begging to the federal government to come help them. And all these people have been is just completely anti-Trump, completely anti-Trump. Mamdani at least went to the White House and, he was there, standing at the Oval Office next to Trump. Right. We saw that funny clip where Trump's like, "Oh, is he a fascist?" And Trump's like, "Yeah, just tell him I'm a fascist. It's easier that way." Right. These guys are going to come begging to Trump. And I think Mamdani, if I had to guess, he's already made a deal with Trump to capitulate. They're all going to capitulate. They're going to have to, because otherwise it's going to be the citizenry that gets turned against them. And that's the last thing that they want.
What's happening now, it's historic because we're not just watching politics like we did 30 years ago. We're watching something big happen. We're watching a collapse of the old world, collapsing slowly, because Trump's doing a fantastic job, and there's a lot of people now talking out, social media's, I think, has taken over the mainstream media. You get a lot of crap on social media, yes, but you get a lot of alternative truth on alternative media as well, which is uncontrolled, unlike mainstream
100%.
media. So there's a lot of that going on. And this is very interesting. People are now questioning everything. We're seeing the collapse and it's great news, and obviously gold. I mean, we've never seen it reach 5,000 before. Silver. I used to tell people to invest in silver 5-6 years ago when it was about $20 an ounce, Matt. And now we're at what? Almost 100.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember buying silver. I got some of my early silver at like $13 with a 30-cent premium, and then 60 cents is a big deal. Eagles, $2 premium on Eagles. Eagles today, you're probably paying $15, $20 over spot for a silver Eagle. It's getting insane. And you know what? It's we're seeing the market suppression, right? We had a big run up to 120 something. And then what? The price slammed down. Well, let me ask you a question, Nick. If you had a product that has a 2-week delay to get shipped to you, okay, does the price go down? Does it go down into the 70s or the 80s? No, the price goes up. So clearly there's major market manipulation. It's totally fake. And what's great is, your audience, clients that have bought, maybe a little bit higher in the hundreds, let's say over $100. They understand. They're like, okay, it's down. If anything, it's another buying opportunity. And I think that's what's happening. I think we're going to see a big plummet also in the crypto prices. And what that's going to allow is going to allow people to start getting into the market at reduced prices. This is a great time to buy. And we'll probably see $200-$300 silver by summertime. Right. Yeah. And then, what do premiums look like at that point? You have $300 silver. You might have $100 premium so in other words, $300 silver is really $400 silver because the wholesalers are going to say, hey, we're charging a lot more just to get your hands on this stuff. We know that there's a limited supply of it. So it's like, I just tell everybody, don't worry about the price right now. It's about as we always say on the show, it's not the price that's going to be prohibitive. It's going to be your ability to get it. And at some point, I think it'll be this year, you won't be able to get it or you have some crazy wait time. And we're prepared for that. My company, we're sitting here saying to ourselves like, okay, we'll make a purchase on your behalf. And, if it's 6 months out, whatever. Okay. So we'll leave the money in the account. We'll put it, we'll send it right for the purchase. And, the worst case scenario, you get a refund. Right.
I think just when you move your cash into silver and gold, you're not spending your money. You're placing your money in an asset that's going to multiply.
The real deal.
And this is how elites move. And we the people, are the new elites. Okay. We have to take advantage of this.
Amen.
And we have to let go or abandon the Federal Reserve Bank that prints fake money and start taking sovereignty and responsibility in our hands and invest in in God's money, sound money, because this is how you're going to protect your future, your families, your retirement, and it's just a wise thing to do. You know, I don't understand why you would have cash in your bank, but that's devaluing. Even if you've got 10,000 in there and it stays 10,000, it's no longer worth 10,000. The value has changed, even though it still says 10,000. It's market or manipulation. Okay, because they
It's a
keep
great
printing.
and it's a great savings tool. You know, I'm very appreciative of gold and silver because for me, I've been buying it for, 20, 25 years. And for me, it was a great savings tool. And, when I see these price increases, it's like I see my wealth just moving up around me and everything else is going down. So it's like, okay, and I'm still buying it. I just picked up a bunch of gold at $5,000 an ounce. Like, in other words, we had people come to our storefront and they sold us a bunch of gold. I'm paying 5,000. I'm happy to take it in. I want it. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's fine because gold's most likely going to probably $30,000 or $40,000 an ounce. I'll take whatever. And I try to tell people, I'm like, hey, don't sell this stuff if you can avoid. Some people have, bills or emergency costs, whatever. And I get it. People have to sometimes, life happens, as I say. But yeah, I mean, I would be stacking as much of this stuff as you possibly can. And you know what? It's like then that allowed me to get into the crypto space. And it's like if my cryptos went to zero tomorrow, guess what? I'd be pissed. But at the same time, I'd be under show next week. I wouldn't. I would be able to handle the loss. I think gold and silvers should be at the core of people's finances. It should really be the core asset of what people are sitting on. That's their wealth. That's the real money.
Well, it's real. They're not numbers on a screen. It's real. It is real money. It doesn't represent money. It's real money.
It's real money.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need to be. I don't know how to put it in any other way. It's the most sensible thing to do is to put your money in silver and gold, and that's how you make money. There's no.
And the opportunities, Nick, the opportunities that are going to be around the corner here, like people that do IRAs with us, right? People from your show who do IRAs. It's like, yeah, you sit in gold and silver temporarily right now. There's going to be once in a millennia opportunity to get back into the market. Once Trump restructures the stock market, restructures the monetary system, there's going to be opportunities where if you have access to your money and you have the ability to go get into these things and convert gold and silver back into the system, I mean, you could take your IRA and make 10 times as much, 100 times as much as what it is based on being able to get in at that particular period of time.
Yeah.
I just tell people, it's like everything's coming to a head right now. Everything, the banking system, right? We see the political stuff with Epstein and all this stuff we're talking about, but this is going to trickle down to the monetary system and the markets. So people better start getting prepared and solidifying their money right now. And as you know, I do the self-storage IRAs. Get your money in physical precious metals. And I'm telling you right now, it's not even just the precious metals that'll make you money. It's going to be your ability to take advantage of opportunities that no one else can because their money's tied up with some bank that's begging the government, that's begging Trump on their knees to go help them.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, I'm going to leave the link below, Matt, to your website where people can contact you and help them through getting gold into their hands and freedom. But Matt, thank you very much for sharing everything with us today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
I would just say, everybody stay calm. We've been waiting for this moment. I think we're at that drip flood stage. I think we're at the flood stage where there's going to be a lot of information coming out over these next couple of weeks. You can sort of feel it. You can tell something. There's a lot of big stuff that's about to be revealed. I think your audience is prepared for it emotionally, mentally. That's what makes us the greatest group of people on earth. The Anons, the Patriots. Now, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's come in from your show. John, love you, buddy. He'll be happy I gave him a shout out. But yeah, just hang in there, and as Trump says, the best is yet to come.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And Matt, thank you very much. And we'll speak very soon. You take care. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.